Hello Plus Ultraman, everyone here, and welcome back to the channel. Today, as a part of celebrating April Fools this year, I have another special story for you from my Gag Multiverse. If Chiaotzu and a Saibaman were born fused, then instead of just a Chiaotzu, we'd have a Chowman. And though his friends may still name and call him Chiaotzu, he is far from the warrior we are familiar with, considering that he is much stronger and has a far more noticeable appearance, as Chowman would quickly realize that he may need to find a way to place some transformations or Frieza style limiters on himself, either through lots of heavy-weighted training gear to hide under, or through telepathy to cast illusions, so as not to make people uncomfortable due to his pointy ears and green skin, as those are weirdly frowned upon features on this planet. As a result of all this, Chiaotzu's origin is changed to somewhat resemble Goku's, and that he is not truly what he seems he is, and exactly what he is doesn't get revealed until later in the series. Instead, here in the early stages of Dragon Ball, when it comes time for the 22nd World Tournament arc, we would begin exploring Chowman's backstory and involvement with Tien, Master Shin, the Crane School, and Tao Pai Pai, as I could easily see Chowman still maintaining some of Chiaotzu's ability to read the room, and recognize when and when not to, and recognition of when and when not is best to let himself be seen or heard, and thus when to reveal his true strength or nature, unless absolutely necessary, likely only letting on as much power and potential as Chiaotzu originally had, until being caught or found out by Tien, who, feeling trapped in a lie, betrayed, and dishonored, demands that Chowman face him at full strength if he really is his best friend, as he has made himself much stronger than his canon counterpart by this time to stand as Chiaotzu's equal, to the point he is likely as strong as he had made himself for the 23rd World Tournament, if not stronger, and yet, it still hasn't proven enough. As a result, the story of Dragon Ball concerning Chiaotzu, or rather Chowman, is changed pretty drastically, since our titular hero was born for all intents and purposes as a fused being, with therefore the strength and potential of both a Saibaman, a Chiaotzu, and a little something extra on top of all that. For example, Chowman would not be defeated so soon after his introduction by Krillin, even with the help of tricky math problems during the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, soundly and honorably defeating the monk, and going on to have a likely more impressive match with Goku than what the truly bald fighter and Saiyan would have in canon, ultimately going on to face Tien, like his friend and now rival asked for in the finals, with all he has. Due to Chowman's colossal strength, however, and the power of Tien's conviction and warrior spirit, it's not only highly likely that Chowman will be able to defeat Tien Shinhan, even if he has adapted and trained harder to become stronger in anticipation for this day, but it is also very possible that because of that gap in strength, Tien may generally fight to the death trying to defeat his best buddy and prove himself, extinguishing his own life on accident with the Kikoho during the match, and in the process, violently breaking the covenant of the Crane School on the two pure-hearted warriors, but at a terrible cost, with rectifying this mistake becoming Chowman's current motivation to gather the Dragon Balls. That is this, as well as the appearance of a new villain who tries to steal one of the orbs. Mercilessly defeating Tambourine, Chowman will recruit Goku, Krillin, Yamcha, Master Roshi, and the other members of the Dragon Team before proceeding to survive the events of the King Piccolo saga. In fact, as easily the strongest fighter on Earth by a country mile at this stage of the sagas of Dragon Ball, Chowman could actually still be considered too strong right now, making the wrap-up of King Piccolo's arc rather simple and clean, as even with so much might, Chowman wouldn't dare destroy the king before he could make a wish on the Dragon Balls, even though he would still inherently dislike the Demon King a bit for ruining green skin and pointy ears for everyone else by being such an evil and nasty jerk. Plus, with his ESP abilities, and use of even stronger telekinesis than Chiaotzu would have access to in canon, it could make even the most esoteric of secrets like that of Kami and Piccolo's relationship completely irrelevant and easy to solve, leading quickly to the defeat of the king and the birth of Piccolo Jr. before the group would finish off a leisurely Dragon Ball hunt. After Chowman, who was originally so shy about displaying his full strength, finally does so of his own accord for once in his life, all the Z fighters and Earth villains begin to take notice of just how much power the green-skinned fighter holds, and try their best to answer in kind, meaning vastly intensifying their training over the course of the 3-year timeskip prior to the 23rd tournament, changing the course of the story further forever, and in pretty unrecognizable ways. For example, all the Z fighters would likely have made their advancements in power level to the points they had reached for the Saiyan invasion, if not above it, since Chowman would have been born with at least a power level above 1200, not even counting any adaptation or strength that could be gained on the Saibaman half of the fighter through the Crane School training. And by the time he is trained for the next Budokai, then I imagine that if he is now the Earth's strongest, and thus likely the first Z fighter chosen by Kami for training at the Lookout, then that means that the Chiaotzu end of the fused fighter could definitely reach that 610 or so power level that he achieved after the divine training at the Lookout in canon, meaning that by the time we end the OG Dragon Ball era, the #1 Z fighter is of course Chowman, who could easily have a power level well over 1800. Put into perspective, that's stronger than the base Saiyan saga Tien, who in canon would be 3 times stronger than the regular Saiyan saga Chiaotzu on his own, and is close to 7 times as strong as Goku was for the 23rd term environment after his train with Kami. Because of this, you could also have all the Z fighters impacted by Chowman's being so powered up from their canon 23rd tourney power levels, by increasing them in this timeline by a factor of 1.5 to 2 times what they would have been in canon, because they would all be highly motivated to try and catch up to Chowman. Or perhaps, when he died, Tien was deemed pure harder enough to train with King Kai, in which case, the story would suddenly also be taking on aspects of a what-if scenario of Tien training with King Kai earlier, or for longer, though this scenario may already be too wacky to compound that on as well, at least by this stage. And this power-up will be needed, as by the time of the next time skip ending and Raditz arriving, Chowman would officially be the world's strongest protector. But Raditz, due to getting a scouter reading of this before approaching Earth, may better arm himself for his mission to find Kakarot, with much of that remaining the same. Except that with us having Chowman as the more influential leader of his and Tien's little former assassin duo, and because he is more sociable, he would likely decide that they would attend the meeting at Master Roshi's, and thus are present with the likes of Goku, Piccolo, Krillin, Master Roshi, Bulma, and maybe even Yamcha when the Space Monkey Man arrives and tries to kidnap Gohan. Over the time skip, Chowman could have easily become another roughly 30 to 50% stronger, as Goku did during the time skip, if not something more like 60% or twice as strong again, as he wouldn't be married and cutting down his training to please Chi-Chi. That means we could be looking at a Chowman around a power level of 2400 to 3600, making our little fused fighter main character of the What If almost about worth 2 of Raditz. Thankfully for the hairy Saiyan, he would have prepared for this, deploying the weapon he asked Nappa for to complete his mission, and planting a duo of Saibaman on the ground, essentially making fighters equal to himself to maintain the extreme danger to Earth. The weak Saiyan will have to be careful, as he does not earn enough gem badges to control this many high-level pocket monsters at once, effectively making 3 of him in the battlefield. Though that said, all the Z fighters wouldn't be much to sneeze at either, since to keep up, Tien, Goku, Piccolo Jr., Krillin, and Yamcha are nearly twice as strong as their canon counterparts by this point as well. But upon their arrival in the conflict, Chowman is freaked out by the Saibaman, maybe having visions of strange feelings that begin to hint at what his true nature really is, which serves to throw him off in the fight at first, allowing the Saibamen and Raditz to claim the upper hand despite not having the numbers advantage at first. Though through removing heavier weights than they carried in canon and rallying together, the Z fighters, due to their power-ups, are able to defeat Raditz without the need of a casualty on the side of the heroes. However, the Saibamen are a bit more trouble, with them fighting more savagely and predatory, trying to pick off each of the weaker fighters first to increase their odds of victory. Eventually reading their feral minds, Chowman realizes they are preparing for a devastating self-destruct attack, and already having become tired from the toughest battle he has faced so far in the story, as well as a sudden emotional trauma, Chowman is forced to make an ultimate sacrifice to stop his evil distant relatives, despite how the similarities between them make him hesitant to do so, saying goodbye to Mr. Tien and all their other friends as he blows himself up and successfully ends a threat and saves the day, marking the first and likely one of the rare times such a strategy actually bears successful fruit in the Dragon Ball multiverse. This would also mean that being left alive, Goku and the others can train Gohan back on Earth, which, having looked at the bones of that what if before, I can attest to is a major change to the story, even if it can sometimes seem bland. With this large change to the Saiyan saga, the rest of our early Z era would be a bit idealized, even if it initially seems like it will be a struggle with Goku not getting any access to Kaioken's Spirit Bomb. But even still, our unofficial fused fighter would largely be able to make up the difference, I feel. For one thing, because access to King Kai's techniques would give Chowman more high-risk, high-reward moves, like Tien and the Crane Skull fighters usually like to lean towards, at least those that aren't blowing themselves up. Not to mention the exertion, adaptation, and training under 10 times Earth's gravity did make Goku like almost 20 times stronger, and even if we were only to grant Chowman half that much, as given he is not a Saiyan, even a 10 times strong would be a massive challenge for Vegeta and Nappa, as it could mean he'd be in the range of 24 to 36,000 in power level, if not 48,000 to 72,000. Upon recognizing this strange Cyberman-like fighter though, Nappa takes an extreme interest in Chowman, however, proudly revealing that he is the one who requested Frieza's scientists find a way to breed stronger Cyberman, in that way making the duo father and son, and he has some brothers of his who would like to play. With this established, and with a stronger dislike for the bald Saiyan than in canon, Chowman endeavors to defeat the Saiyans without major losses on their friend's side, and in an attempt to save and help redeem those Cybermen from serving these villains, just as Goku and the others had once saved him and Tien from the Crane School. This ends up changing things like Yamcha's death, and also sees Chowman through telepathy, befriending and adopting 6 younger Cybermen brothers, further turning the odds in the favor of Chowman and the Dragon Team. However, even in response to this, Nappa declares that he is a proud mid-class Saiyan warrior, and more importantly than even that, a Cyberman master, revealing that he has another set of far more evil Saibamen, equally loyal to his command alone due to their specific breeding, with this resulting in a still rather tense and harrowing battle, as Chowman is still forced to bear witness to the subjugation of his people. But when working together with his friends and new techniques, it's likely Chowman could take on even an Ozaru at this point and attain victory, so even these stronger members of the Saibaman species are barely enough to make a challenge for the good guys, especially if Chowman is able to increase his power for a short time with Kaioken, using his hybrid Saibaman, Earthling, Jiangshi, Pokemon, or whatever you want to call Chiaotzu body. The point stands that as he is now, he has evolved far beyond the need to self-destruct. Not to mention that if they're following similar trends to Chowman's growth, our Z fighters would now be sitting at power levels still ahead of the curve, at least of where they should be by this point in canon, even with a great deal of the load taken off of Goku, and by a fighter whom most would initially write off as just a gag or cannon fodder. As when all is said and done, Nappa has whited out, and all his Saibamen has fainted, with Vegeta left alone in utter confusion, and somehow caught in the crossfire of this sudden inane battle that started for reasons totally unrelated to the Dragon Balls he came for, being left on the brink of death and forced to open Twitter. And because of this reason, and the Z-Fighters allowing his retreat, Chowman would warn the Saiyan to deliver a message to all his compatriots that they need to let his people go. This could create a situation where the casualties of the Z-Fighters are so non-existent that they do not need Namekian Dragon Balls. Or via his Esper abilities to read minds somewhat, Chowman could maybe even become aware of the Frieza soldiers listening into the battle, and thus warn his allies that a new threat is arising, with the Z warriors either deciding their next order of business should be to go and stop the evildoers out in space, as it would technically be their fault the Dragon Balls are known of, or to stay here and train, waiting for Frieza and his men to come here. Though not once to be reactive, the Z fighters of course decide to use Kamiso's ship, with a team of Krillin, Yamcha, and Bulma going out first, while commissioning for 2 more spaceships from Capricorn, with the ability to increase gravity for training purposes, are worked on, one for Chowman, and one for a group of Z fighters who will accompany Goku while doing some training of their own. Obviously, if Goku was to travel to Namek with gravity training, a head start on his power level, and even just one of the numerous strong training partners he'd have access to here, his power level on Namek would likely cause the events of the arc to be comically easier than in canon, even for a gag what if, though Tien and Chowman, as well as the Saibaman brothers, will most certainly be off limits, as they are planning to take the second ship to the heart of the Cold Empire, where the Saibaman race was birthed and sentenced to an entire biological function of endless conquest, self-sacrifice, oppression, and death. So he plans to find those jerks and tell them all what for, after some hardcore training of his own, which proves tough even for the fused fighter, but thanks to there being a slightly larger stockpile of senzu beans, as well as the fact that Yajirobe may not have been met here, and thanks to threats of Earth not always being so devastating here due to the heroic Chowman, they are able to endure 69 times Earth's gravity, which is nice, but then they eventually climb even higher than that, up to 100 times. Unfortunately though, the lifespan of a regular Saibaman is not infinite, with this being the whole reason Chowman was created. However, before his brethren depart this life, they have their final days filled with peace, fellowship, and collective contribution towards a commonly held goal of their own choosing that they are not forced to die for. It is a joyous union, even though it ends in an extremely bitter and sour goodbye, as after 6 months of travel to the Frieza Force core world, the poor Cabbage Patch Garbage Pail Kids have rotted away and steeled the resolves of Tien and Chowman all the more in their wake. When they storm the Frieza Force central headquarters, the scientists and soldiers producing more Saibaman are quick to surrender their work, and all that Chowman can even exist, as well as his claims of true sentience and personhood existing in each Saibaman, no matter how vicious. But King Cold is not so forgiving or understanding, with the Monarch soon engaging the best friend battle duo as their next boss fight. Though, this too would follow the trend of all the others, with Chowman fighting back the impossible odds by unveiling an impossible power, as he becomes the legendary Super Chowman. Just as Tien is killed again in the course of the battle, while freeing and protecting Saibaman on his best friend's behalf. In this state, Chowman's power has increased 50-fold, but the more impressive boon is that this multiplier applies to his mental abilities in connection to the great Saibaman hive mind as well, so that as he reaches this state, he is connected to the thoughts and emotions of every Saibaman that has fought and died before him, and even those who have yet to be planted yet. And what's more, in a plan to eradicate evildoers, he is able to devise a technique through searching the universe, and even the other world, for ways to give those fallen soldiers a chance to fight just once again, as the secretly fused fighter has created the Super Saibaman Ghost Kamikaze attack, a technique which utterly overwhelms King Cold, regardless of the gap in their power levels still. Though when the battle is over, the planet is left in shambles, with Chowman becoming desperate to find a means of escape, hold off its opponent, and get the innocent Saibaman off the planet in one go. Here, thankfully, the ease with which the Namek team completed their task helps out, as Goku gets in contact and explains that after becoming something called a Super Saiyan, having Vegeta join their side, and beating someone named Frieza, his group is now at liberty to offer Chowman the final wish on the Dragon Balls, and the knowledge that Tien can indeed be revived again with the Namekian ones, which Chowman uses now for the sake of the Saibaman, moving them to safety like the Namekians, then finishing off King Cold with one final explosion before narrowly escaping the dying planet and setting course for a place called Yardrat, where he would unexpectedly meet up with Goku and engage in something called spirit control training with him, where they fill each other in on their adventures and enjoy a rematch as rivals. Because of this, the timeline would go even further out of whack, as both Chowman and Goku would master their new transformations, instant transmission, and possibly other spirit control techniques together for incredible boons, as they'd have no rush to get back to Earth for King Cold. Not to mention, because Chowman is an experienced assassin, knowing a great deal about the human body and studying the health of its targets, as well as being a powerful telepath, the Chiaotzu Saibaman hybrid would likely detect the heart virus in either himself or Goku early, giving Bulma and other scientists and doctors of Earth a jump on developing the medication for it early as well, avoiding catastrophe. And while it's possible the androids could still catch our heroes off guard, Chiaotzu and Tien are always training in canon, so the same would still go for here. As if Chowman is trained by Kami as a potential guardian, as well as in possession of spirit control enhanced telepathy, he could likely sense Dr. Gero's dangerous intent, and be the messenger of the future in that regard as well, especially since the perfect soul of this timeline will be composed of significantly more Saibaman DNA than in canon, which Chowman would definitely take notice of. Needless to say, on the day that the androids arrive, Chowman isn't the one left at home. In fact, it's Tien, though the three-eyed warrior would never allow this to happen, even as a joke. And because of this, our Android and Cell saga in this timeline would likely be very similar to any other one, since it's usually a milestone you can only get so strong to change the outcome of, with Chowman continuing to take the place of future Trunks in terms of his contribution to the story and battles up until the arrival of Cell, as the bio-android would, unlike the other creations of Gero, be more interested in Chowman than Goku. The two develop a fierce rivalry, but as Chowman doesn't have the same similarities to the Bugman as Goku did, and he is less willing to be merciful with him, Cell will likely be defeated this timeline during his own Cell games, when Chowman finally overwhelms him with a best friend's Kiko Ho alongside Tien, while all the other Z fighters blast the villain. Thus, because of this experience, Chowman and Tien are actually well prepared for the arrival of Babidi, Dabura, and Boo, having trained and studied hard with Chowman, having finally come to understand his true fused nature, and through King Kai, discovering the Metamorans and their techniques, which he would subsequently share with the other Z fighters, as he had with the other moves he has learned, with at least Tien, meaning that when Boo is released, it is to a group of Z fighters who are not only overall way stronger than they should be by this point, but even worse than that, they are aware of fusion far earlier than they should be as well. And to that point, being born a fused fighter, like Piccolo, rather than becoming one for example, it would still be technically possible for Chowman to fuse with others, if not for this discovery and the desire to push it higher, to lead to the construction of the Metamo Ring, in an ironic way of Grandpa paradoxing the logic of this what if into place. The same logic that led to Gero's plans being discovered could also thwart Goma and Degasu, while the GT timeline could likely be simplified, since you can't exactly wish Chowman was just a kid, and if the Black Star Dragon Balls were scattered, they would still be well within his grasp as a telekinetic able to destroy the very universe, allowing him to just sense where they have been spread throughout space, and gather them all single-handedly with only a thought. This means that Beerus would face a similar discovery, with this increase in their ability to entertain him, and their delicious food saving the denizens of Earth. However, what the cat wouldn't expect, as the Oracle Fish hadn't predicted, is that when 6 pure and righteous-hearted Saibamen come together, a Super Saibaman God is born, as the species has always been strangely in lockstep with the Saiyans, as Goku, Vegeta, Chowman, and by sheer force of will, Tien become the rivals of the God of Destruction and students to Whis. Together, they prepare for and explosively dominate the Tournament of Destroyers, before they meet a future version of Vegeta and Bulma's love child, and end up using Chowman's abilities to quickly suss out the culprit behind a mysterious plot in the future, where an evil Kaio has hacked universes and timelines, and has taken over Chowman's body to become Chowman Black. Then after this, another tournament is held, this time across universes, by the Grand Zeno. However, I feel like by this point, you should be very well aware of the joke. Chowman unlocks the power of the gods, Ultra Damp, preventing it from taking any damage from self-destruct moves, as obviously by the end of the Tournament of Power, Chowman has gambled on using his spirit fission to split himself back into a Chiaotzu and a Saibaman, with the duo using their bond and the power of Universe 7 to defeat the mighty Jiren and win it all. And with the likes of Broly, Moro, Granola and the Heaters, Gamma 1 and 2, and Cell Max rear their heads, they too will see their statuses as worthy adversaries quickly changing to more villains of the week. Because if you threaten the Earth or his friends, the ally of good and nightmare to you, Chowman, will ensure that your evil ambitions are the only thing that self-destruct.